Welcome, everybody, to the reboot of Endgame Sensei. I am very happy to be joined here by two promising students of the Endgame, Blood Queen and Rach Angel. Thank you for being here, and I hope it will be fun and perhaps valuable for you. The format will be as follows. I'm going to show you an endgame position, and you are going to have some time to think about it, and you're going to give me your evaluation of the position. Then we will mute our mics in Discord, so you can each still talk to your chat, and I can talk to my chat without distracting each other. And you'll play the position, and I will provide some commentary on my side. You can provide some commentary to your chat, but I would urge you to try to play well more than you try to provide scintillating commentary while playing. I'm going to show you the position. We'll discuss it very briefly. We'll get your evaluations and a couple thoughts. Then we'll play the position out, and then we'll come back together to talk about it. And hopefully we'll play 2 games, so you each get to play white. Without further ado, let's reveal today's position over here.
Drum roll, please. Oh, so intense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Here is our position for today. It is white to move, as the most observant of us will figure out, even without being told that. So it's going to be white's move. And so our first question to both of you is, okay, so the first question is who is better and why? And everybody can have a minute to think, and then we'll start discussing it. All right, Rachel, you can keep thinking a little bit. We're gonna have Anushka go first, because I know she has a sense or an idea about this.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I will do my best. I kind of like intuitively decided like 2 seconds in, and then I tried to, gather some more, think about some moves and maybe see if my idea changed, and it didn't. So I think black is much better.
Okay.
Yeah, pawn structure like looks worse, but like we have this beautiful outposted knight. No one's ever kicking it out. Like, how is this rook ever getting in? White's rook. Also, white has the bishop, which is like, pawns on both sides of the board, usually a slight edge. But in this case, the outposted knight is controlling, like, it's octopus knight. It's like so many light squares in the center, like taking those away from the light squared bishop, which is really beautiful. And yeah, the bishop's attacked. You have to move it. So, black has tempo, and all of their pawns are more advanced. Their king is more advanced. White's pawn on C2 looks like a weakness, and yeah, rook is more active. I want like vine boom sound effects after every like weakness that I say. Yeah, that's my evaluation. Black is much better.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, you looked relaxed for most of that time, like you weren't working that hard, and Rachel was like, what? I could see her working.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. Like, you're like, Rachel, you have anything to add? Like, what am I supposed to add to that? Yeah.
Did I say everything?
Well, for one thing, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I would pick black here.
You would pick black?
Yeah.
Okay. And for similar reasons?
Yeah. Pawns are more advanced. I mean, octopus knight. I've never heard, I'm sure now that you say octopus knight, I've heard that term, but I've never thought of it that way before. But the knight is just insane. I think it's just harder to know where the pieces are going, as there's so much more space and mobility for black. I think for white, it's hard to know what to do, especially with the rook, with the king. I think it's, I don't think it's crushing, like black is crushing or anything, but I think black has a slight edge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's kick off our first game then. Everybody, you've heard our 2 contestants' opinions of the evaluation, both preferring black. Neither of them said white was lost, but they seem to think that pretty much every positional advantage on the board was in black's hands here. Rachel, you're going to have black in the first game.
Oh boy. Okay.
So can one of you send a challenge to the other?
Yeah.
I can
think
send.
Anushka, you've just done a challenge like this a moment ago, so maybe you can. So you get the white pieces. It'll be your move first. We'll do 5 minutes plus 30 seconds. And be aware that the first 1 or 2 moves, chess.com will forfeit you if you spend too long on the move.
Right.
So one of the reasons I chose a position where the bishop was attacked is to make white's first move relatively easier as you get into a game. Hey, chess friends. Before we get into this episode and the endgame sparring, just want to take a quick moment to ask you to please give us your feedback on the format here. This is kind of a reboot of Endgame Sensei. And we have 1 or 2 questions. First of all, really quality sparring involves playing the same position multiple times to get deeply into the position and acquire some really good knowledge that you can carry forth with you. So we've only posted 1 game here in this episode because we were afraid that's already like 40 minutes. We were afraid if we post 4 games as a single episode, which is how I would like to do it, that would just be so long that nobody would ever watch it. So let us know, number 1, should we put all the games from a sparring session together, or should we split them into smaller episodes? Or is this 40 minutes already just too long, right? And number 2, do you like the effort that our wonderful editor and social media and marketing genius Matt has done? Do you like the effort he's done to splice in pieces of the thought process of both players as well as my commentary? In the old episodes, we basically just had Jesse do commentary and you didn't hear Kosti and my live thoughts, only when we sort of came back together to discuss. So let us know any thoughts you have on the format, please, and whether we should keep doing it and make it longer or shorter, and enjoy the video. All right, folks. So the first move was this bishop saved itself from the rook and knight's attack. That was supposed to be a relatively easy first move for white to play, and it's the correct move. The bishop wants to keep the c2 pawn defended, right? So it's kind of a choice between bishop d3 and bishop e4. And bishop e4, I think, would be generally pretty bad because you're in line for black to play f5, f4, gaining more space with tempo on your bishop. So I'm moderately sure that this bishop d3 is the best first move. And then we get a5 from black because this pawn is hanging, so that's a good choice for black as well. And then white brings the king towards the center.
Do I just send it and then move the king up somehow? I'm gonna abort in 30 seconds. Okay. I don't think that this is a good move, but I don't really know what else to do at this point.
Let's see if white cares about this f4 move or not.
I would like to fix this pawn on a light square, but it's like, how am I getting to him, you know?
They just bring the king further. Okay, so my sense is that this f4 move is potentially valuable. So I would be tempted as white to play the move f4 right here. It gives the bishop something to attack. It keeps the rook from being able to transfer through the 5th rank by keeping that pawn stuck there. And if black's able to play f4, then the move c3 will never undermine the knight because there will be yet another defense of the knight. King f6 played. Okay, so Rachel also not in a rush to play f4 herself here. Just advancing her king towards the center.
Bang, 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 bang. I can't calculate for shit. Maybe I'm just gotta get behind the pawn somehow. It's harder, if I go here right away, at least she doesn't have, like, anything.
And now rook to g1. This move is prophylaxis, aka a preventative move against f4, because now f4, pawn takes, rook g6 looks bad for black, probably, right? we drop a pawn and the white rook becomes really good. So rook g1. And that's one of those mysterious rook moves. It looks like the rook's on the open file. Then we put the rook behind this pawn. But if black plays f4, the rook comes alive. If white plays f4 and black trades, the rook might also come alive. So I've I think eliminated the mystery of the mysterious rook move, but it's still a really cool move. And so we can see that both players played their first moves reasonably quickly. I mean, not blitzing, but they were just spending, 25 to 30 seconds on improving the king position. So this stuff was, the first couple of moves were pretty clear to them. And now I think Rachel is wondering about like a plan, like how to improve her position, where she wants to expand. She's already grabbed a lot of space, right?
Well, I guess she's going here because she wants to open up the file somehow. With like, okay, now I have time to think. Maybe like do I care about this kind of thing? Like maybe no, but then it's all locked in. Like if she goes here, do I just like chill? Or do I push? Then this can't move and this can't move. I don't know how I would access. I just don't know what else to do necessarily. My rook is kind of like, but the king is also tied down here, and my knight is just like fabulous. I don't know what to do after f4 necessarily. Like I don't know if I want to trade it or if I just want to hang out, or if I want to keep. I feel like I want to keep this like this maybe. But I don't know if I like f4, g4.
There was a crushing move with knight takes c2 earlier. I think white's kept the pawn defended. Oh, was it maybe when the king was on c1? Let's go check that. Because they were playing quickly at the beginning. It is possible they could have missed something. Knight c2 attacking the rook. I assume this is what Jacques Granola was probably talking about. And then if bishop c2, d3 even stops rook e2. If the rook had come to the second rank, it would just be a fancy trade. But this looks completely winning. Completely winning. So they weren't yet maybe warmed up to looking at specific moves. They were still sort of advancing a general idea or strategy, right? Which was, I want to centralize my king and grab space, And I find that a lot of people either think tactically or strategically, but not both at once. As we see Rachel getting into a little bit of time trouble, but now we see why. Plays a very complicated move, and the game is exploding.
She's really like tanking all of her time here. I don't know what she's thinking about.
But I don't know if you go here. I don't know why I'm so like caught up on this move. Okay, well, I guess it's something similar. Like, if she locks it up, I think that this is bad for me, right? Because it's all in the same color, and it's easily attacked. Right, f4. Because if she takes, I can take with a rook, and that's kind of snazzy. And f4, if she takes this way, I take back that way. Do I like that? I guess I don't like that the rook is opening up things, but I don't like this either, because the bishop just becomes a lot stronger. So I think I messed up. Basically, I think I messed up is my conclusion. And I shouldn't have allowed this to begin with, and I have life regret. Ooh, that's not fun. Hold on. If I take here and you go here and then you get this check-in, do I kind of like cry? But I'm also really fast. I'm really fast too. And like, what are you gonna do? All right, fuck it.
So f4, idea is takes, maybe she'll take this way to just get these pass pawns started, or maybe, well, it's hard to say for sure. She could take either way in response to that. She could even play the move g4, the weird pawn breakthrough as a pawn sack. This is where Blood Queen needs to stop and use some of her time. She can't just keep, and she played quickly. She can't just keep putting the pressure on Rachel and just hope that Rachel's going to self-destruct. Rachel's doing complicated stuff, and she needs to think as hard as Rachel on this. Rachel spent 2.5 minutes on f4, and she spent 30 seconds here recapturing. She really needed to spend about 2 minutes herself. So there's another option here of takes, king takes, takes, king takes. And this looks more or less like a dream for Rachel. So I think Blood Queen's probably right to avoid this, but it needs to be reflected on longer than she did.
Whoa. This is not a thing that I thought that she could do. Maybe she wants to take with a rook? So that I can't do this? Well, that is not very nice of her. Maybe I... Show and tell. Oh, I can't right now. Okay, this is not good, because that's a defended square. That's like the extent of my thought process. So maybe I just do this. Pawn has to take. And then at the very least I like get this check. And I can like go places, maybe. Yeah. And I was fine leaving this pawn here anyway, so I'm just gonna... Yeah, we vibe with this.
So she went for g takes f4, and yeah, and Rachel's choice was going here, making this outside passer right away. White could go rook h1, and Anushka's finally stopping here and really thinking about it. You could go rook h1 and go after this pawn, or you could go rook g6 and get your rook active. Problem is the h5 pawn is defended, so if you get active, then what are you doing about this pawn?
Whoa. Should I have been worried about that? I don't think so. I think it's fine. So here, where's she gonna go? She can go here. Huh. If I go here, how's she defend pawn? I mean, this check looks really tempting, but actually I think it's counterproductive. I just go here. Here is no bueno. Do I want to cover this square? Can I cover the square? That's the question. Oh, okay. Now I have to think.
We've got to move rook h1. So credit to Anushka for thinking here, but I will say, folks, in general, I would have spent those 2 minutes right here, and I would have had my next move planned. You know what I mean? When you make this decision, you should... This is the critical decision. Once you get here, hopefully you have a plan.
But my intuition is that this is interesting and that I have the edge here. Like, you're tied down here, and it's hard for you to bring this bishop in. My intuition is that this is good for me. Even if you can play rook h1, I think my intuition is that I like it. Rook h1, knight g2, like even if you take this, I think my passed h-pawn is kind of nice.
Okay, so she comes here. Knight g2 is revealed, defending the pawn and planning to come to f4. White can kick the knight with the bishop, which will eliminate this pawn, but it won't prevent black from setting up the basic situation that they want, more or less, right? Which is outside passer, knight on a nice dark square. This position looks really pleasant. Looks like Rachel looked really deeply before she played that f4 breakthrough.
I'm going to take this, but at the cost of this. But I don't mind because I have a passer.
But my original plan was to do this. I said she'd go here. Oh, this does save me a tempo, actually. What was I talking about? Here, here. She attacked the piece. Here. I thought she'd take the piece, take piece. Here. Attacking this. Here. Maybe she comes back here. No, but then I can take here. Oh, no, I can't. I pushed my pawn. Ah, pushing my pawn there actually probably isn't great. I don't know which one is better. I don't know which one is better. Between this and this, I don't know which one's better.
I mean, there's just no way for me to defend this pawn. And there's no way for me to defend this knight. So I don't know why I'm wasting time thinking about this. But here at king g5, I think I'm okay. I think I'm happy with it. And I need to make a move, so I'm going to take it.
I would mostly give props to Rachel so far this game for really giving us the feeling that black has an advantage, just like both of them were talking about. Rachel is has impressed with her ability to make some transitions and put real pressure on white here. So these two players might not be endgame noobs. So far, they're doing just fine. Knight f4, rook h4 comes quickly. Yeah. It is also very good to play some moves quickly, you know? You know you're going to take this pawn, so take it. Definitely expecting king g5 for black now. I'm not sure what Rachel would be thinking longer on this move, because that seems really clearly to be the right move. They're friends, so I wonder how competitive they feel, how much they would hate to lose, or how excited they would be to win in this little mini endgame match with each other. There was some trash talk from the get-go, so I think there is definitely a little bit of competitive spirit here. So, yeah, white's got to back up the rook to h2 or h1. Not clear how big a difference it makes. And then we assume black's probably going to play h4, and white has to come up with a plan to improve some piece of theirs, right?
Oh God. Did I miss something terrible? But then I just go here. No. Oh, this is really smart of her, actually.
Is there still hope for white? Maybe now that we've captured one pawn, we have to swing the rook out to h8. The problem is if black goes rook h5, I'm afraid the minor piece endgame might be lost because these pieces are so far away from the progress the h-pawn's making. Weird move from black. So here, and here was a question. h3, rook takes h2, rook h8, king h4. This is a line that they may not have calculated all the way to the end as they were playing, right? King h4, so here rook h8, rook h5 wins for black. Bishop g6 would be the last trick in this variation for white. And then let's see you go rook h5 for black. Bishop takes h5. And oddly, you still get a competitive endgame, right? It goes on from here. Still not won or lost. Honestly, white should have a good chance to draw that endgame.
All right, I'm gonna go here. I think this is a thing that I can do. Check king f4. Right? Check king f4. I come this way. I mean, you could come through the back though. You could come through the back, which is kind of annoying, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. If I come back here, you come this way. But I can always take your pawn, so maybe I'm just tripping.
So anyway, to me, h4 was the key move. We get knight d5, which is surprising and maybe hopeful for white. I guess black wants the king to move forward. Bishop e2 from white after really long thought. And, I mean, for now, if king f4, there's rook h5. You think bishop e4 could have been a better move here, maybe?
Here, check, takes. If you take me here, I take you check and win this, so I don't think that you can do that. Am I blundering? Hold on. No, it's fine. Check. I can take, and it's fine. It's fine. I don't know why I hallucinated there was like some kind of, it's fine.
Here, black played h4 and white threw an f4 check. So that's going to trade off that pawn. White's going to be very happy about that. And in fact, to defend this pawn, black might have to go to e5. So black has to now decide how they feel about a rook trade.
Look at my knight compared to that bishop. I'm not taking that. Are you kidding? If I go here, you go here, I'm a little bit in trouble here. Maybe I play h4. Hopefully that's not a blunder. Oh, that is a blunder. That's not a blunder, but like...
Oh. Well, I can still do this. I can just do that.
F4 takes and takes. Yeah, that was my bad. But maybe. Yeah, there's no way for me to protect this.
Say Rachel. My feeling is Rachel's face says she thinks she blew it a little bit. King e5's been played. And white goes very quickly with this next check. Is she confident about the rook trade?
Yeah, I don't actually think this is that good for me. Like, I'm not crazy. So we give check. Yeah, I say it's not that good for me, but I actually, like, did not try to calculate at all.
All right, so she wants a draw. I don't think... I think moving my king to the back row is suicide. You just come. I think moving my king here, you get this in. And where do I go? I mean, like, I could just repeat that, but then your bishop is just in a nicer spot. And you also get this bishop e4 idea, which just, like, makes your bishop just kind of sucks here, and it's not a lot better here. So maybe I just take the draw. I mean, I could play king e7. Or no, I guess I had to go. Like, or you check me again and I play knight f5. No, that just loses. But maybe this is like the cheat is taking the draw here, like a cheap way out. I just think that I lose all the other ways.
No, she's just going to give a bunch of harassing checks. Interesting. I think probably the rook trade was draw-ish. I think probably the position's drawn with or without the rook trade now. Now, Anushka often tries to avoid draws to insane degrees. I've seen a few of her games. Did a profile on her chess play once. She's very aggressive normally about winning. If she wants to win, she has to keep all the... Well, in general, if you're trying to win, keeping more pieces on the board maximizes your chances to outplay the opponent in a drawn position. But if you don't trade these rooks, then your bishop is stuck, right? Trading the rooks would let her bring her bishop out. All right, they get the threefold repetition. Let me turn my mic back on over there.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello.
Nice. So, one game in the books. And what are your thoughts about the first game, Rachel?
I think that I think I just played h4 and then I like just kind of without thinking it through enough, and then immediately after I was like, wow, f4, and then I think I lose all my advantage. So I wasn't happy about that move. I was thinking like, yeah, I don't know. I think instead of h4, I was looking at f4. And I wasn't exactly sure what to do because then I realized like all my pawns would be on light squares if I pushed g4.
So from her perspective, a different moment in the game.
Or yeah, a different moment in the game.
Yeah. So f4 early on is a different defense. She played h4, and you got to imbalance it with your very complicated f4 move.
Yeah, but I thought that if she played f4, I was nervous about what I would do if she played f4. Because I thought that like if I just took it, then it would just open up a rook, and then if I pushed, then it would lock everything, but then all the pawns would be on the light squares, which is probably good for the bishop. I think someone after the fact said like, I had an opportunity to trade the for the bishop on d3 at some point, and I didn't even consider it. And then I saw in the chat someone was like trade, and I was like, oh, why didn't I consider that? Because maybe like there's some kind of like bias because we initially talked about how like the knight was in a really good square.
Yeah.
And so I was like, keep it on that square, then why would I trade it? But maybe like I should have at least considered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some thoughts that I had.
Sure. Yeah. How about you, Anushka?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think h4 was interesting because my plan was to go f4 and like win the pawn, like trade those pawns anyway because I had my bishop and my rook pointing at h5. So I feel like if you were gonna go a different route, it should have been. I really thought you were gonna take my bishop, at some point, but then.
Oh, you're talking the later h4. All right, I'll get there.
Yeah. But
what about king f4? Maybe I should have played king f4 there, but yeah, yeah, we can look at it. But
Okay, so Anushka is saying she's planning f4 followed by eliminating this pawn on h5. So if black didn't play h4, what did you think Rachel should try here?
I thought she was gonna go king f4 actually. That was one of the moves. I thought she was gonna go king f4 and then knight e3, and then I was gonna have to like make some magic happen. But like maybe at least I have an open file. I was honestly gonna go like rook g1, rook g8, and like try to attack stuff from behind and cause some mayhem. Yeah, that was my whole plan with this position.
Yeah. Cool. So very good. I like that you're sharing your ideas really freely. Sometimes when you're gonna rematch somebody in the same position, there might be an instinct like, oh, I shouldn't like tell them everything I thought of, But the way you get better at the position the fastest is to share your ideas very freely in between games, even though you're going to play multiple games against somebody else when you do an endgame sparring like this. So I'm going to point out one or two little things just to speed you along a little bit. So I would say that the knight on f4 was on a seemingly optimal square, and then Rachel moved it back to d5 and to e3, and that is surprising. Well, I mean, you didn't think it was on its best square, obviously, the way I thought it was already on its best square. Otherwise, you wouldn't have moved it, right? But moving that knight away gives white this option of f4 at some point. It sort of opens up a little space for white. And where your knight was on f4 before you play knight d5, right? From here, it's blocking the f pawn, which is on a bad square, right? Anushka's bishop is partly suffering from that pawn being on that particular square. It's cutting off a lot of the bishop's options. So the knight's blocking that pawn move. The knight is keeping the white king from ever playing king d3 to try and, bust out in the middle and make progress somewhere else or cause some action away from the h pawn. And the knight's even covering, one of the squares that helps the pawn to queen. So the most direct line there would have been h4, h3, which looked pretty promising. But if you didn't want to do that, I imagine you could also look at some ideas to maybe improve your rook first, such as either rook c8 to h8 or rook e5 to e3. Honestly, I didn't think of either of those rook maneuvers during the game because I think it's natural to have kind of that sometimes when you have a clear strategic idea, it can kind of tunnel vision you, right? Like you think your knight is your advantage, so you never look at knight takes d3, right? And I basically never looked at knight takes d3. You think the h-pawn might be winning, you just start looking at pushing it instead of an idea like rook e5, rook e3. I don't know. But if we try to come up with more ideas, if h4, h3 doesn't work, then my next thought would be to improve my rook before I would think of repositioning the knight on f4, which looks super good right here.
Yeah. No, you say all this now. I'm like, this is so obvious. Like, why? What was I thinking? Yeah.
So, and then as you say, when you played h4, allowing f4, maybe instead of that, a move like king f4, could be a way to keep the game going because you keep that bishop sort of trapped, and so you still have this h-pawn, which is super dangerous. And I guess the main plan here is king g3 and then pushing the h-pawn. But it seemed with the knight on f4 that it was even stronger to go h4, h3, king h4, and then maybe king g3. That seemed like the apex of your position.
Right.
And now just a little tidbit for you, shared from chat. On move 2, there's a little tactical pattern I want to make sure that you know just for your future games. If white plays king c1 in this position, black can go knight c2, bishop c2, d3.
Oh.
I think that's just a matter of, warming up. Like you're just getting into playing, right? Your engine's cold. And it could also partly be that a lot of people don't think strategically and tactically at the same time. So sometimes you look at a position, you're like, I've got all the time in the world. It's an endgame. What square should I ideally put my knight on and my king on? And which pawn should I advance? And what structure do I want? And you're thinking about all this stuff 30 moves down the road, right? And then you're not thinking about the little move-by-move tactics. So that can happen. And vice versa. People are just calculating all the time, may not notice the most obvious of intuitive things about the action because they're in that mode. And combining the two ways of thinking is pretty tricky.
I didn't even consider knight c2, and now I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
No, me neither.
Why not? Why didn't I consider that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great first game. And I think with that little discussion, you're well equipped to do a rematch. And Anushka can take black now.
Yes, I will.
Do you have any tips for Anushka before we start? I know you had some comments for black, but what about... Okay.
Okay. You want to discuss more before we start?
No, it's okay, but yeah.
It's true. I got a lot of good stuff, and I was like,
I'm just saying that really... you mentioned a lot of things from my side. And
okay. Let's mention some things from white side. So, you mentioned the idea of maybe playing f4 instead of h4 and keeping the pawn structure symmetrical, not allowing that passed pawn. I also feel like in a lot of the game, the pawn on f3 was one of white's biggest problems, kind of making their bishop not very mobile. So that's a strong consideration for an improved defense for white, right? Would be to play f4 at some point. And honestly, it's a candidate move from the moment black plays f5 onward. So should be thought really seriously. When I was watching the game after f5, I considered immediately maybe playing f4 for white. Yeah.
Maybe this time I will play f4 as white.
Yeah.
All right, I'm playing as black.
And that's also something that you can do with these sparring games is like you may come up with an idea for white after a game where you've played black. Where you've just played white. And you could share the idea with the person you're sparring with. They get to take advantage of your idea and be the one to play it, right? It helps them, win the little match with you, but it's pushing your understanding of the position forward faster together, right? So, you can definitely use each other's ideas.
Okay, I should have sent.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Good luck, soldier.
Okay, good luck, soldier.